Captain Zorfax clicked his tentacles impatiently as the starship Intrepidus dropped out of hyperspace. Through the view screen, the mottled blue and green sphere of Earth hung innocently against the black void of space. "Report!" Zorfax barked, swiveling his eye stalks toward his science officer, Sklorn. "We have entered standard orbit around the human homeworld, sir," Sklorn replied, manipulating the ship's scanners with his lower appendages. "Class M environment detected. Oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere, abundant liquid water, and organic life forms." Zorfax let out a warbling chuckle. "Excellent. The fools at High Command said the humans would detect our approach, but it seems we've arrived unnoticed." He turned to his tactical officer, Ruglox. "Charge the quantum torpedo bays and deploy attack drones. We will eradicate their orbital defenses in one swift blow before landing extraction teams on the surface." "At once, sir." Ruglox moved to carry out the order. Zorfax fantasized about the commendation he would receive when he presented the High Council with this lush, fertile planet. The biological resources alone would fuel the Empire's expansion for megacycles, and the primitive human race would serve well as laborers and slaves. "Captain," Sklorn yelled, "we are being scanned by a vessel on an intercept course. Configuration matches human starship classifications." "What?" Zorfax pulled up the scan data, bristling with anger. "Impossible! Their technology should be cycles behind us. Evasive maneuvers." The Intrepidus banked hard as a sleek, silvery vessel dropped out of warp, directly between the Carloxian ship and Earth. Zorfax could make out the markings on its hull, UES Liberty. An incoming transmission clicked through the ship's communicator. "This is Admiral Jefferson of the United Earth Federation Starship Liberty. You have entered sovereign human space uninvited. Power down your weapons and state your intentions immediately." Zorfax fumed, his tentacles writhing furiously. "Insolent life form! I am Captain Zorfax of the Imperial Carloxian warship Intrepidus. Your planet now belongs to the mighty Carloxian Empire. Surrender or be destroyed." Jefferson sighed. "Look, let's not get off on the wrong foot here. I'm sure this is just a misunderstanding. Why don't you come aboard for a chat? We were just about to have dinner." The arrogance of the human made Zorfax boil with rage. "You dare mock me? I will wipe your pathetic vessel from the stars." He entered a series of commands into the weapons console, priming the quantum torpedoes for launch. But instead of unleashing devastation, the control panel merely blinked at him. "Sir, our weapons are offline," Ruglox cried. "Some kind of directed energy pulse from the human ship has disabled them." "What? Impossible!" Zorfax slammed his tentacles down. Jefferson's voice returned through the communicator, still maddeningly casual. "Oh, sorry about that. Just a little emergency precaution on our part. Can't have you losing your temper and doing something you'll regret now, can we?" Zorfax stared dumbfounded at the view screen image of the human starship. The design was unfamiliar, but the technology was clearly far more advanced than anticipated. How was this possible? "I must consult with High Command," Zorfax said weakly. "Open a hyperspace channel." But the communications array merely sputtered uselessly, as dead as the weapon systems. They were trapped here, at the mercy of the humans. Jefferson spoke again. "We disrupted your FTL communications as well, just to make sure we have your undivided attention. Now, we're perfectly willing to have a civilized discussion, Captain. In fact, I insist on it." Zorfax sank into his command chair, deflated. "Very well, human. It seems we have underestimated you. I agree to your negotiations." "Splendid," replied Jefferson. "We'll have my transporter chief beam you and your staff right over. Don't worry, you're going to love pizza." As the channel closed, Zorfax dropped his face into his tentacles. How would he explain this humiliation to High Command now? The human's words haunted him. Underestimated indeed. Zorfax materialized aboard the human starship, still reeling from the utter failure of what was supposed to be an easy conquest. The transporter room in which he found himself was spotlessly clean and filled with technology, the likes of which he had never seen. Several humans stood waiting, wearing crisp uniforms bearing insignia marking them as higher ranks. The one who stepped forward wore additional decorations. This must be their leader, Admiral Jefferson. "Greetings, Captain," Jefferson said warmly. "Welcome aboard the Liberty." Zorfax shook off his disbelief at the situation. He must not let these humans see weakness. "Your technology is impressive," he conceded. "But if you believe you can intimidate the Carloxian Empire, you are mistaken." Jefferson smiled. "No intimidation intended. We just wanted to clear up this little cultural misunderstanding. Come, let me show you around." The tour of the ship was almost surreal to Zorfax. The humans nonchalantly displayed scientific feats the Empire had struggled centuries to achieve. Hybrid fusion fission reactors supplying endless clean energy, gravity manipulation allowing inertial dampening and simulated artificial gravity. And the sheer scale, the Liberty was twice the size of the Intrepidus. Finally, they came to the officers' mess hall. A bizarre assortment of food and drink covered the tables. Jefferson encouraged them to sample something called pizza, but Zorfax was wary of poison. A younger human female approached them. "Admiral, the translators are fully trained and we've prepared quarters for our guests." "Excellent work, Ensign Wu," Jefferson replied. "Let us continue our conversation." The ensuing negotiations were equally baffling to Zorfax. The humans spoke of individual rights, cultural diversity, and freedom. When Zorfax asserted the planet belonged to the Carloxian Empire, Admiral Jefferson merely laughed. "My dear Captain, I don't think you understand the situation here. We will not be surrendering our world or people to anyone. However, we are more than willing to establish free and open trade with your civilization." Zorfax froze. "Trade? But your resources will fuel our expansion." "Will they now?" mused Jefferson. "And what do you imagine that expansion entails for worlds such as ours?" When Zorfax detailed their plans for invasion and enslavement, the humans seemed more saddened than angered. "I believe there is a better way forward, for both our peoples." Reluctantly, Zorfax agreed to review the proposed trade agreements and cultural exchanges. What choice did he have? "Splendid," Jefferson said. "I know this all must be quite shocking for you, but in time I hope you will come to see humanity's way as preferable to the path of violence and subjugation." As Zorfax returned to his ship, he pondered the paradox of a species so advanced yet so naive. Surely they could not maintain this egalitarian innocence as they expanded into the galaxy. And he knew the High Council would never accept peaceful trade over an iron-fisted conquest. But Zorfax now doubted whether such a conquest was even possible. One thing was certain: the humans were a far greater variable than any Carloxian projections had allowed for, and variables had a way of altering all equations in the end. Zorfax stood rigidly before the flickering holograms of the High Council, dreading the report he must now deliver. "Proceed with your briefing, Captain," intoned High Chancellor Vexa, her aged tentacles crossed. Zorfax hesitated. "Upon arrival at the human homeworld, we encountered unexpected ... complications." He described their advanced technology and refusal to surrender, bracing for the Council's reaction. Instead, they merely clicked in thoughtful unison. "This confirms the projections of our strategists," Vexa said. "The humans are more resourceful than typical civilizations at this development stage. Adjust your invasion plans accordingly." Shock rippled Zorfax's body. "With respect, Chancellor, they have demonstrated technological parity with our own. A successful invasion seems Unlikely. The chamber rumbled with laughter. Council member Jurox responded dismissively. Clearly you have allowed these humans to intimidate you, Captain. Their society is disorganized, non-linear. Ours operates with unified purpose. We will adapt and prevail. Zorfax struggled to compose his reply. They exhibit social cohesion exceeding our models, and their non-hierarchical structure appears efficient. Enough, roared Vexa, tentacles flaring angrily. You overstep your place, Captain. The Council has deemed this planet vital to Imperial expansion. You will reconquer it by any means necessary. Chastened, Zorfax acquiesced with a bowed head. After terminating the transmission, he slumped dejectedly in his command chair. The Council was stubborn, but the facts remained. Earth's conquest would require resources beyond his current capabilities. He summoned his senior staff. Options, he rasped. We must devise a new strategy to breach the humans' defenses and bombard their population centers. Chief Engineer Clax discharged his oral siphons thoughtfully. Admiral Jefferson indicated the humans possess intra-system transit networks. Possible hijacking vectors include quantum teleportation or micro-wormholes. This could bypass orbital defenses. Excellent, Zorfax exclaimed. Divert all efforts to penetrating these networks. What else? Sklorn manipulated his console. Initial cultural data implies variable societal priorities. Leveraging social divisions could foster insurrectionist factions to... Zorfax waved his words away impatiently. No. The humans have proven annoyingly cohesive so far. He pondered further. The High Council had demanded results. The sanctions for failure here did not bear consideration. Pull all available stealth drones from storage, he ordered. We will overwhelm their detection grids through saturation and begin landing extermination teams on outlying population centers immediately. His officers saluted and withdrew to carry out their instructions. Zorfax slouched wearily in the stillness of the command deck. He felt stained, as if this rising tide of violence might never be washed clean. But the Council's will could not be denied. He wondered what Jefferson would say to these desperate new tactics. Would he respond with outrage, or merely muted disappointment? Zorfax realized with a start that the humans' reaction mattered to him now on some deeper level. But it was too late for qualms. The invasion would proceed, and untold lives would be lost. For the first time in his career, pursuing final victory felt less like a triumph than a burdensome task he must complete out of grim obligation. Zorfax wished fleetingly that the galaxy held other paths forward, but wishes were for hatchlings. He had given his orders, and the assault on Earth now accelerated towards its destructive conclusion. Alarms blared across the Liberty's bridge as Admiral Jefferson studied the sensor readings grimly. The Carloxian stealth drones had evaded their detection grid and landed ground forces outside population centers across the globe. Casualty reports coming in already, sir, said Lieutenant Curtis. They're using some kind of disintegration beam on whole city blocks before we can intercept. Jefferson shook his head. So the good captain has stopped playing nice. Deploy all available fighters to intercept. Full authorization to engage. The Liberty banked hard and accelerated towards Earth. But Zorfax had cunningly timed his attack for the few minutes their transit engines were down for maintenance. Closing the distance would take precious minutes. On the surface, chaos reigned. Citizens ran screaming as Carloxian Centauroid walkers vaporized buildings at will. Strange bipedal aliens marched through the streets, harvesting any human they found. Jefferson opened a channel to Zorfax's ship. Captain, cease this madness immediately. We can still find a peaceful solution. Zorfax's tentacles twitched with what seemed like shame. I must follow my orders, Admiral, for both our sakes. The channel closed, and Zorfax watched the slaughter uncomfortably from orbit. Why did it feel so wrong to be winning this battle? But the tide was already turning. All across Earth, hidden human bases roared to life. Sleek fighters and bulbous drones erupted into the skies by the thousand. Zorfax peered closer at the sensor feeds. These were unknown configurations, more advanced than any vehicles they had yet seen. Jefferson had been holding forces in reserve after all. The human ships tore into the Carloxian walkers with precise volleys. Alien ground troops found themselves beset on all sides by powered exosuits and elite commandos. In minutes, their invasion collapsed into confusion and full retreat. Realizing any further attack was useless, Zorfax ordered his remaining ships to fall back and consolidate losses. If the High Council questioned his decision, they could fight these humans themselves next time. Aboard the Liberty, Jefferson surveyed the damage reports with steel in his eyes. Thousands of lives lost, millions displaced from their homes. But it could have been far worse. He opened a channel to the Intrepidus. "Your invasion failed, Captain, and we have mobilized barely a fraction of our full defenses. I pray you have learned the futility of aggression today." Zorfax wilted under the human's stern gaze. The Council would have his head for this, regardless of excuses. I must consult with my leaders and reconsider our approach," he said softly. Jefferson's expression held more pity now than anger. "You understand so little of who we are, but we will teach if you wish to learn." Zorfax terminated the link in contemplative silence. The humans possessed the power to annihilate him utterly, he realized. Yet they chose mercy. Perhaps their way truly was superior. The galaxy held paths forward he had never imagined. Zorfax stood rigidly as the High Council bellowed its outrage. "Billions of Imperial credits wasted on this fruitless invasion," raged Vexa. "You have failed utterly. Explain yourself." Zorfax steeled his nerves. The humans cannot be subjugated by force. Their technology matches our own, and their society is resilient. They wish only to exist in peace. "Peace?" Vexa spit the word scornfully. "You disgust me, Zorfax. I should feed you to the tentacle snakes for your incompetence." The other council members clicked their agreement. Zorfax trembled but stood his ground. The Empire can gain much through cooperation with the humans. We should open diplomatic channels immediately. The chamber rumbled with shock. Jurox fixed Zorfax with a venomous glare. "You overreach your authority, Captain. The Council will vote on this matter shortly. For now, you are relieved of command." The screen went dark and Zorfax slumped into his chair, exhausted mentally and physically. He had gambled everything on reason, but the Council remained too blinded by conventional thinking. An alert chimed. An unauthorized wormhole was opening near the ship. Zorfax rushed to the bridge, expecting a suicide bomber or similar fanatic attack. Yet it was Jefferson who materialized, unarmed and alone. "Admiral, this is unwise," Zorfax cautioned. "If the High Council discovers you here—" "Yes, well, desperate times call for desperate measures," Jefferson replied briskly. "I couldn't help overhearing your little chat with the Council. Not the reasonable types, are they?" Zorfax shook his head bitterly. "They refuse to accept your friendship. I fear they will launch a full-scale invasion soon." Jefferson smiled. "Not to worry. I have an idea that just might change their minds." Minutes later, Zorfax stood before the High Council again, with Jefferson conspicuously beside him. The chamber filled with outraged shrieks. "Guards, seize this intruder!" Vexa thundered. But Jefferson spoke first. "Chancellor, I realize this is unconventional, but I come in peace to make you all a unique offer." He went on to describe a student cultural exchange program, scientific partnerships, free flow of ideas between their peoples. The Council shifted uncertainly, taken aback. "Why should we accept this?" sneered Jurox. We can still crush your backward civilization." Jefferson nodded gravely. "You could try, but you would find Earth more than prepared. We have particle cannons capable of inducing supernovas inside stars, quantum cascade devices that destabilize neural tissue, technology beyond your imagination which we deeply hope never to use." The council members stirred nervously, fully aware the human spoke the truth. "Consider carefully, friends," Jefferson urged gently. "Will more violence and pain truly benefit your people, or shall we build something greater together?" Vexa hesitated, then extended a tentative tentacle. "Perhaps discussions are warranted." Zorfax let out a relieved shudder as the tension dissolved. There it was, the first step on a new path for both their peoples, a path leading to the stars and the future instead of the ashes of war. Afterwards, he clasped forelimbs with Jefferson. "Thank you, my friend. You took a grave risk for us." Jefferson grinned. "Some risks are worth taking. The hardest part is opening closed minds to new ideas." "Indeed," mused Zorfax thoughtfully, "we have much to learn from humanity. There would be stumbles ahead as old enemies became new allies, but with patience and courage, a brighter tomorrow could dawn for all."